Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Top Cut, our discussion show where we're going to take a look at some of the current events going on in the Pokemon community right now. This week's show, we're going to be focusing on regional championships, some of the rule changes that are going to be coming up with X and Y coming out in about a month, and also we're going to take your viewer questions as usual. So if you guys have any viewer questions, please visit our Facebook page, facebook.com/TopCutPokemon. Ask us a question, and we'll answer them at the end. Before we get started, let's just introduce everybody. First off, we have Michael Pram a lot. How you doing, Pram?
Doing good. Been playing a lot of Pokemon X recently. So, yeah, I've been pretty excited about that game.
All right, and we have Benjamin Potter. How's it going, Ben?
Going pretty good. I've been playing a lot of Pokemon Y recently.
We actually coordinated this.
The best new game made by Nintendo.
I'm playing the second best game.
And of course, we have the one and only Drew Holton. How's it going, Drew?
Good. I've been playing some X as well. Me and Pram knew the game to get.
We'll see what game Crim has when he gets here. He's going to be running a little late. He'll join us a little bit later in on the show. But for now, I think you're just enjoying a bouncing version of him. Is that right?
Yeah, it's been a while since we've pulled that one out, too. You can look way back into our earlier shows, and so whenever Crim wasn't here or DC'd, that guy would pop up. But, yeah, bringing him out of the woodwork.
Before we move on, who did you all pick as starters? Pram, you first.
Froakie.
But you get two right. Who's the other one?
Charmander.
All right, Ben.
Froakie, Charmander.
Drew.
The same.
I knew the answers were going to be the same, too, so when you brought this question up, I was just like, Froakie.
So you all picked Froakie and Charmander.
Yeah. We did not coordinate this, obviously. Otherwise, we would have traded a little bit better. And unfortunately, that means we all get Moltres.
When I get the game, I unfortunately don't have it yet. I'm going to get Chespin and Bulbasaur. So we'll switch it up a little bit. Maybe we can...
Does that mean you get Articuno? Or does that mean you get Zapdos?
I think it's Articuno, and I think Fennekin is Zapdos.
I'll trade you anything for Articuno.
We'll talk. All right. So our first topic of the night is regional championships. Those are ongoing right now. The first one happened in California. I believe it was Pleasanton, California. The NorCal regional championships. They had some interesting results. The top eight had a bunch of different decks, ranging from straight Darkrai, Garbodor. We had Virizion, Genesect, Blastoise, Plasma, and I guess the surprise was Big Basics and Garbodor made a comeback, finishing two of the top eight. Just Landers, Mewtwo, Garbodor coming all the way back from probably last year's regional championships. It's a deck that died down a lot, and all of a sudden it's back. And of course, straight Darkrai ended up winning the event in a shocking fashion over Blastoise in the finals. So first of all, what you guys think of the result? We'll start off with Pram.
In terms of what decks made top 8, I'm not really surprised on actually any of them. Garbodor is very strong, and Big Basics Garbodor has always been a thing. And if you don't show the deck respect, like if you don't prep for it or put any type of counter for it at all, then it'll get you. So not surprised that it went deep. In terms of Darkrai winning versus Blastoise, historically terrible matchup. However, he played a little bit of a twist, and he played it well enough to... he kind of abused that little twist, which is Frozen City, which was a very cool little thing. I think he ran Dowsy Machine 2 to get it back.
Yep.
So, yeah, very cool little strategy that got him through Blastoise, which was nice. Nice to see.
Yeah, definitely surprising to see that Frozen City in there. We don't see that played very often. Ben, what'd you think?
The results really confirmed one thing for me, and is that you can really play any kind of deck with a bunch of strong cards, and you can do well with it. Now, I know, especially last season and I think the season before, the big basics trend has been pretty big in California compared to at least the rest of the United States. So I'm not surprised to see a bunch of big basic stuff do well. I am surprised to see the Blastoise, Darkrai deck solo by itself do so well. That was definitely a surprise. And when I think about Frozen City, I get scared a lot because like, oh, maybe I'm not going to be able to do the 140 damage I need with Darkrai. But you're definitely playing a more long, patient game with Frozen City, and it was really interesting.
Yeah, we definitely saw that. I think it was Israel. I think that was his name. He sat there just kind of like junk hunting the first few turns, and just getting dowsing machine, and just kept putting out more stadiums. And eventually, his stadium stuck out there, so it was kind of cool to see. And we definitely thought straight Darkrai was a deck that would fade out with a loss of energy switch, but yeah, it's still strong, I guess.
Yeah.
Drew, you have any thoughts? I don't know if you were able to catch
Uh,
on the bubble stream of it or see any of the results, but get your thoughts too.
Yeah, I didn't watch any of the games live, but I could see the results here. And like Ben, I'm not very surprised that there's a ton of big basic decks. Like that's what California's known for, like the crazy new combinations of stuff that isn't seen anywhere else in the country.
It's the Wild West for a reason.
I am surprised about Darkrai though doing so well, especially against Blastoise. So, especially undefeated too. He didn't drop a game all weekend, so must have
Well,
knew what he was doing.
he did have a tie, but I guess that's not dropping a game. We'll discuss the ties and the rest of the system a little bit later. First, I just want to get you guys' thoughts. How do you think this will affect the metagame for week number 2 for regionals? We always see, kind of the first the first tournaments in a series. Like the first national championships, the first state championships, etc. They always impact the second and third weeks, and this is the first time we've really had regionals split up in quite some time. So, what do you guys think for next week? Will this impact the metagame at all? And we'll start with Ben.
Yeah, for sure. You had the Klaczynski Open already, and that it provided, albeit a smaller tournament than a regionals, but it had a nice, like, you got to see what was successful there. And I don't think you're going to see as much of a change. Like, I don't think you're going to say these results affect the metagame as much as you would like with like Kaczynski Open, but especially with like Frozen City doing so well, and these big basic decks, those are going to go up. Frozen City and big basics, they're going to go up, and it's going to play a part.
All right. Anyone else wanna chime in?
I guess I'll go. I don't think it's going to affect the metagame that much at all. It's only a top 8, so we only get to see like a small portion of the decks that did well. And this is pretty diverse. There's only only duplicates I see are the Rizion deck and the Landorus Mewtwo deck, which are, besides the Landorus Mewtwo deck, I think everything else is pretty common. So I just see this is a nice showing for the metagame, and it won't be too much different than this. I don't think we'll see a Landorus Mewtwo anywhere else, but who knows?
Pram?
Yeah, I think this kind of just reinforced what a lot of people thought about the metagame. Sure, the Blastoise Darkrai thing was a little surprising, but it's not like Darkrai could never win versus Blastoise anyways. So if things happen the right way and you play the right decks, you can beat Blastoise, and that's what happened there. In terms of the other top 8, everything was kind of, for the most part, as expected. So nothing. I think the future regionals, you might see a slight increase on like Darkrai or anti-Darkrai, just because it won. But other than that, I don't think it'll be too big of an impact.
Okay. And what do you guys think about the role in plasma decks and all this? Because I think the story this season has been a lot of decks really tacked to beat plasma a lot. Like we saw at the Klaczynski Open, tons and tons of enhanced hammers and drift limbs and God knows what. But now we're seeing kind of two big tournaments in a row where Plasma didn't have a ton of success. There was a top four finish here, but do you think people will continue to tech so heavily against this deck, even though it's not really doing very well?
Yeah, they will. Like I said about the big basic deck, and also maybe a part of the reason why I did so well, is that if you don't do anything about it, it will just run you over. So, like, a lot of the reason why Plasma may not be doing so well is because a lot of people are going anti-Plasma in terms of, like, a little bit of their build. And as a result, Plasma players are a little lost on how they build their deck to cope with this. And as a result, they're just not doing that well. So.
Well, do you think that A, Plasma will start to fade away, or B, we're just going to see, those Virizion Genesect decks that run anywhere up to like a 4/4 Drifblim line, do you think we'll see like some of that stuff get trimmed down a little bit at all, or is it just going to stay the way it is?
I think it'll stay the way it is for a little bit. Maybe if Plasma starts falling off completely to the where it's like the general consensus on like, why would you ever play this deck? It just gets hated on. Then people start cutting corners, and that's when like the time to play Plasma will be. But as of right now, it's Plasma needs to adapt or just lose.
Seems like that's been the trend so far. Anyone else have any thoughts?
Yeah, with the regionals so far away from one another, I really don't think you're going to see people go to multiple regionals. And so you're going to have a large percentage of people who are just going to one regionals. That's going to be pretty big as far as if you have a metagame shift or not. And I think, at least for the first week, there's definitely not going to be a die down in the anti-Plasma techs. Now, maybe going into the third week, then you'll have people stop playing the extra techs because they notice in the second week that people stop playing Plasma because there's so much anti-Plasma. But for now, I think things are going to be relatively the same. And after regionals, we really don't know what's going to happen, especially with XY being released, I think. Or at least the rule changes. That's a big deal. Not XY being released.
Yeah, we'll get to the rule changes a little
Legendary
later.
Treasures. Legendary Treasures, yeah.
Yeah, that's the next set coming out. The rule changes do go into effect November 8th, which we'll get into a little later. But, nah. All right, good points. Drew, you want to chime in on anything, or should we just move on to the next point?
We can just move on.
All right.
The next one.
All right, so the big story of this regional championship is the brand new system we have in place. We have 50-minute best 2 out of 3 Swiss rounds, and of course, everybody should know by now about the tie system. We saw a lot of ties. We saw a lot of games not being able to finish, and California actually got hit the hardest by this because of the way the tournaments are structured. They only had about 200 players, which wasn't enough to get those extra Swiss rounds. So they only played 8 Swiss rounds and then a top 8. If this would have been last year, it would have been 8 Swiss rounds and a top 32. So after seeing this first regional championship where on stream we had half of the matches finish in a tie, what do you guys think of the system we have in place now? And Drew, I guess we can start with you.
I think you can see clearly there's some kinks that have to be worked out by Pokemon. I think they sort of changed too many variables all at one time coming into this season. We typically don't see them make drastic changes like this all at once, so it's kind of surprising. First off, I think 50 plus 3 is obviously broken. I'm just looking at the first page of the results, and probably 90% of the people here have at least one tie. And there's probably 10 to 15 people that have 3 ties. I see 4 ties in there. Clearly something's not right. So we either have to go to the top cut 4 prize roll, maybe. Maybe that's the easiest change to make first. Try that out. I don't know if that's gonna be a solution, but 60 minutes obviously better than 50. The second thing I think is the attendance and the Swiss rounds. They don't match up well enough to me at all. Like they need 10 to 15 more people, and they got 6 more rounds. Like
Yeah.
that's a huge difference for 10 people. Maybe they need to have like um, 3 more rounds if you're over 200, something like that. Because there's clearly like a huge jump that isn't right at all, in my opinion.
Yeah. For what we've heard, 20% of all matches ended in a tie. That was the
Jeez.
initial result we got. Not sure if that's completely accurate, but that's one out of
It
five
looks
matches.
accurate.
Yeah, one out of five matches ended in a tie, which doesn't seem very good. And also, there was one poor, unfortunate soul who finished with a 107 record. One win and 7 ties. Still undefeated.
The
But
wrong way.
only 10 points. You only get 1 point for a tie and 3 for a win.
Jeez.
Ben, what do you think about the system so far?
Uh, I've played Magic the Gathering tournaments and it works perfectly. That said, this is not Magic the Gathering. These games take much more time, especially with the extreme amount of shuffling you do during the course of a game.
Yep.
And I was pretty scared coming into regionals. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna have so many ties. And then part of me was like, ah, you're just being paranoid. There's not gonna be that many ties. I was right. There's gonna be a lot of ties. Uh, and when you look at the ties, they're almost as bad as a loss. The only thing you really have going for you is that there's so many other ties that could be a factor. Like you could, catch up to other people because they get ties. But as far as not winning games, it's really, really hard to make top eight if you go to time a lot. And if you're a slower player, you're kind of like out of luck here. Like you're not gonna make top eight playing
Better win
slow.
game one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the issue we were seeing, at least from the stream, is Pokemon has come out and said all they want with this system is to ensure one good game. They just want enough time for one game to finish, and if you get donked or lose a really cheap first game, you'll have an opportunity to salvage that a little bit and end it in a tie. But what we saw a lot was 2 full games would complete, and then it would be 1-1, and then there's just no time for the third game, so it would end in a tie. And it just seems like the system isn't doing what it's intended
It's
to do.
almost like people need to slow down. It's like, let's just play one game. Like, everybody take your time.
Yeah. Pram, what do you think?
Obviously, there's some kinks with this, right? But I think as time goes on, if they stick with this rule, people will learn to play faster. 30 plus 3 was a lot of time. So you could take your time and think about your moves for one game. And then you had a 75-minute top cut. Again, a lot of time. You could play slower. But then you throw people who are used to that slow pace. And you go,
Again,
play fast, play fast, play fast.
slower.
And then
It's
people are just
muted.
people are just thrown off. So they don't know how to pace themselves correctly yet. So I think an example of this would be way back in 2002 Worlds, where we had 2 out of 3 Swiss rounds, and at the beginning you saw all these ties, but then at the end people learned how to play faster. So I think obviously 60 minutes would probably be fine with this rule setup, but people just need to play faster too.
Okay. So I guess Cram thinks people can play faster, but for the most part, I think we all feel like the system is not really doing its job, or some changes need to be made. So what do you guys think is the way to fix this system? Should we add more time to the rounds, and then you could run less rounds, sort of like we did at the Klaczynski Open, where it was 75 minutes, best 2 out of 3, but you ran fewer rounds? Or is a better option just to run more single games, but they'd be 30 minutes, and then you just use extra time to run even more rounds? Or is there another solution?
I think 60 minutes, no ties, and then just play it like every round was a top cut match kind of thing, where it's like if the game 3 happens, you just decide on prizes. I think that would be the most fair.
Okay.
I almost think there isn't a fix with the way the Pokemon game is set up right now. Going back to Magic again, their system works because of just the way that you play the game of Magic and the way you draw your cards and what you get. Pokemon, you're playing this long game where you search your deck, you almost implement like a full strategy, like you get a bunch of things out, you play a bunch of cards. I think you just have to make the cards and make the game set up in a way that one game is going to be sufficient for determining like who's better and what strategy is going to win. You know, obviously you're going to still have some luck in there, but I think if you just made it more of a almost like if you just got rid of donks. I know that's kind of like impossible, but and I didn't play back, you know, in the glory days or whatever you want to call it.
Back in ancient times.
Yeah, but I've played games from those formats, and they're really good determinants of like who's gonna win these like games if you just play better, and it was fine playing one game of Swiss, and I really liked it, and I really think it's good, just not with how we have the cards and how the format and everything is set up.
Okay. Maybe some of the rule changes that we're going to see in a little bit may help to alleviate that a little bit.
Yeah, for sure.
We'll finish up this discussion first. Drew, anything you could suggest to maybe fix the system?
Yeah, I didn't really see what was wrong with the old 30-minute Swiss system and the big top cuts. So, I don't know. I just don't like the 50 minutes, best out of 3. Even 60, I feel, wouldn't be that big of an improvement. And at that point, you're playing like a ton of games, and that's a huge drain to grind out all day like that. So I was a fan of the 30 minutes.
Okay. Pram, you're saying something?
Yeah, you know, I actually don't mind the one game either. I would have rather just see one game and just a boatload of Swiss rounds. You know, you can, instead of having people play, you know, 8 2 out of 3s, you can just have them play like 11 one games within probably around the same time frame, and that's just way better.
Yeah, I think we'd like to avoid ties, which right now the system isn't really doing.
Yeah.
I think ties should be something for like extreme circumstances where you can't decide
Yeah.
a winner, not something that happens 1 out of 5 games. So, all right. Next up, we are going to switch over to the new rule changes that are going to be happening with the release of Pokemon X and Y. Actually, we're just going to get them before X and Y even comes out as a set for us. But on November 8th, the first change is a really, really big one. You cannot attack if you are the person going first. So obviously this will prevent any sort of losses where, you know, you don't draw a card. No real fear of starting with like your lone Squirtle and not getting a turn to play the game. Now you're guaranteed to draw a card every game unless there's some freak accident like an Execute versus a Hypnotoxic Laser in a Burbank City gym. That stuff can still happen, but there's no attacking on the first turn. Overall, is this a good or bad thing for the game? And we'll start with Ben.
I do think it's a good thing for the game overall. When I think about now, do I want to go first or second? It really depends on what kind of deck I'm playing. If I'm playing Blastoise, I want to go first. You know, I'm not planning on attacking anyways. If I'm playing Plasma, I think I want to go second because I want to start doing damage to whatever threat they decide to put on the field turn 1. And I think it's really good. I think it's only a positive.
Okay. Drew?
I'm sorry, I'm trying to get Crim in here. Liven up the
You got
show
it.
a bit, guys.
Oh, boy.
Whoa,
there
who
he
is
is.
this?
Oh, baby.
Oh man, this is.
Is that Paul Bunyan?
This show's a whole lot more handsome. I know.
Why is your...
Yeah, it was.
You have like Just for Men, man? That's so dark. Like, dyeing your beard?
What's funny is like if you actually like see it up close, it's like reddish. It's so weird. I have a red beard.
That's a
All
pirate.
right. Welcome to the show, Crim. How you
What I
doing?
missed? I'm doing pretty good. What I
You
missed?
got voted off.
See ya.
We actually invited you to the call so that you could hear the news.
By the viewers. It wasn't even us.
Wonderful, man.
So far, we just discussed regionals, went through California regionals, the metagame, and talked about the best 2 out of 3 Swiss round stuff, the ties and all that. But right now, we are discussing the new rule changes for X and Y. Right now, we're talking about no attacking on the first turn.
Sheesh, you guys breezed right through this.
Yeah.
All right. Should I just chime right in and like just butt in to the conversation? I think I should.
Go
Hold
as
up.
fast as you can.
Let's take a second. I need to restart the XSplit. It's like lagging real quick.
Yeah.
So it's dropping the frame rate.
Okay.
All right.